Hello, Internet. It's Daniel with Driving and Dragons, and I'm here for the first time in a while with a D&D Reacts video. Now, definitely wanted to wait a minute for this one to get a little bit more airplay just because, I don't want to jump in and take views from the original, but to be honest, I don't think my channel has really taken too many views from a much larger channel, but, propriety. But a couple days ago, We Love TTRPGs posted this kind of this omnibus on YouTube creations and TTRPG topics, and I figured I'd weigh in and put a couple of my comments on it. If you are not subscribed to We Love TTRPGs, you absolutely should be. Aten does a great job over there. I think he's one of the best people on YouTube in terms of the TTRPG space, in terms of attitude, in terms of the way he carries himself, in terms of the way he looks at the hobby and looks at people in it and looks at the way things work on the internet. And he also kind of shares part of my own little persona, sense of humor type deal when it comes to the way he talks about certain things. A lot of people still haven't figured out that My Intelligence is a Dump Stat series is really tongue-in-cheek, and the entire idea is to have oversized, more aggressive reactions to things than they deserve, to mock the fact that the TTRPG YouTube commentary X sphere is built off of aggressive overreactions to stupid things like this person over here fudges dice and this person doesn't. This person plays AD&D. This person plays basic. This person plays 5e, or minuscule nonsense like that. There's plenty of stuff to actually get upset about and things to really make hard lines in the sand on. There are certain things that definitely require gatekeeping to the entire hobby as a whole to try and keep these people out, not necessarily to keep them from being able to play the game. Anybody can do that, but to keep them from having a potent voice and to keep them from going unchallenged. But it's 9 times out of 10, it is not the stuff that we see people getting into flame wars about. Half the time, if we see people raising hell, raising Cain, and causing problems, it's got nothing to do with anything important. But that said, this video, I think, bared some response, and we're going to jump into it real quick. While you're here, check out my Patreon. That's where you get your chance to win the Dodge Dart once we get it there, once we get it finished, and it should be coming in soon. We expect New York to be done with the title probably in the next few weeks, and then we can start arranging transport again. But the Patreon, if you're a paid member, you're automatically entered to win. It directly supports the channel, helps us out a lot because I'm not yet able to monetize in any way on YouTube. So that is literally the only way that this channel would generate money right now for that car project, which will be a giveaway along with a trip to whatever con is closest to the person that I'm giving the car to. So it all goes back to you in the end, but that's a great way to show your support for the channel is to jump on over to my Patreon and take a look. And even if you just sign up as a free member, it shows support, and I really appreciate it. And then, of course, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And make sure you go like, share, and subscribe over to We Love TTRPGs, because honestly, if there's a channel that deserves to be really big, it's his. Because a point that he's made in the past is that a lot of these big channels are big because they basically put out generic advice that's kind of the samey stuff, and you really miss out on anything unique. Professor Dungeon Master has said more or less the same thing, where there are certain, the real deep dive, complex thoughts, advanced level game mastering, philosophy type stuff that happens just really gets buried because you put out a video about tabletop role-playing game philosophy or, ways to use history in your games and stuff like that, and it gets buried. However, the new way to put your ranger together to make him like Aragorn gets, a million views over and over and over again and helps build channels. So honestly, this is of many of the channels on YouTube, We Love TTRPGs is on my short list of absolute must subscribes. But anyway, that's enough of that. This video is going to be long enough as is because I believe the original's 20 some odd, or almost 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and get cracking on We Love TTRPGs and the Unfiltered Dungeon Tuber Detonates channel. In other words, him as a channel blowing up.
For the first time in 50 years, a new TTRPG, Daggerheart, has a real shot at dethroning Dungeons & Dragons.
It really doesn't. It doesn't have a real shot at dethroning Dungeons & Dragons. It might have a shot at becoming a part of pulling a big chunk away from a weakened player base, but it's not going to dethrone anything.
Not because it's the best role-playing game ever created, because Critical Role has a strong celebrity brand, while WotC ran too many of their legacy fans from the IP, which is why I moved to Castles and Crusades. I played tabletop role-playing games to do things I can't in real life. I'm not here to sit through your sexual fantasies at the table. I hated that as a teenager, and I hate it even more as an adult. Learn to find the clitoris in real life before pretending you know where it is in a game.
That may be the bomb drop of the entire video right there. I mean, clip that, keep it, put it in your file for appropriate use. That's exactly what I think about it. Oh, here's my horny bard. It's like, dude, how can you effectively role play a horny bard? Let's face it. We all talk about how does an unintelligent or an average intelligence person play a wizard with 18 intelligence? How does somebody who's socially awkward play the 16 or 17 charisma character? I mean, how about this? How does the incel virgin that no woman wants to touch play the guy who gets all the trim in the planet?
Edition isn't real D&D, and that's not an insult. It's just the truth. If you love 4E, own it. Say it proudly. That's right. It's not D&D, and that's exactly why I like it. The only reason that bothers people is the word real, but 4E is a real game, and Holmes Basic was the last real edition of D&D. I've gathered some of the most valuable lessons I've learned over 45 years of running tabletop role-playing games. I've grouped topics into sections, and each could itself be an entire video. But remember, this isn't Israel and Palestine we're talking about, so, chill out, okay? This is just a game. And for the haters, that's cool, man. I own a mirror. I know what I look like. I go out in public looking like this. So save yourself the hate. Listen and learn. Here's a picture of me as a teenager. Here's a picture at age 20. Here at age 25. You think I haven't heard it all before? All that tells me is they're an unhappy person. Happy, well-adjusted people don't lash out anonymously over the internet. So I'm not upset with them. I feel sorry for them. I hope they find joy instead. This is partly why I promote positive mental health on this channel. As a community, we all need to be brutally honest with ourselves and this hobby. We need to reject hate and bullying from any source and every direction. Criticism is fair. Satirizing is fair. Rejecting drama farmers and doom posting is fair game. But bullying marginalized people and hiding behind your politics or religion doesn't make you moral. It just makes you a bully. And guess what? Real goths are like real nerds. We've been bullied, so we never bully others.
Yeah, I disagree with that. And I guess you could hang a lot on the real annotation there, that adjective or that adverb rather. You really could, but let's be fair here. The no true Scotsman fallacy doesn't really apply, and the cry bullying is still bullying. That being said, there's a lot of truth in that too. The biggest point that I want to take away from this is, while we all have some people who do get made fun of on some kind of personal level, if you're jumping in the comment section, for instance, with me, to talk about, oh, you're boring, or your shirt size is, your shirt's too small, or I sure am glad I got to watch you hold your hands up in the air and turn a wrench for 15 minutes because it sure was more exciting than your video. All that tells me is that you don't actually have any response for what's being put in the video. This is the last resort of people who have no ability to attack an idea. You got a knee-jerk reaction. You got your fifis hurt because somebody said something about how we play tabletop role-playing games or something else, and you don't have a response because you haven't thought it through. You just know that I don't like how that felt. So you immediately turn to, oh, nice mustache, dude. Or, that sure is what are you, Fred from Scooby-Doo with your ascot poking out? Just, if you can't think of something to say about the point, don't say anything at all. I mean, leave your comment because it still counts as engagement, but just don't expect anything. Don't expect to have any real effect.
Especially fellow gamers. I don't care how diverse you claim to be. I'm so diverse. Or what political party you hide behind. Being a good person isn't political. It's just basic human decency. If that threatens someone's worldview, they and their worldview are both absolute crap. Bullying is terrible behavior coming from children. It's even worse from an adult. Some of you have commented about my positivity. This video may break your image. Last time I was at the barber, a super cool punk goth woman, I told her, hey, some of my subscribers have praised my positivity. She literally burst out laughing. Someone I only see for 15 to 20 minutes every month or two thought the idea of anyone perceiving me as positive was so ludicrous, she completely lost it. I'm not a positive person. I choose to project positivity on YouTube because I'm an adult, and I believe that's important. I believe that's a sign of maturity and a responsibility all adults have online, especially YouTube. But in reality, I'm so cynical. I used to think positive people had low IQs and were unaware of what was going on in the world around them. But I learned that positivity is a choice. It's an act of bravery. And just like bravery, positivity doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you choose to do right and go forward despite it. Some of you have expressed displeasure with my recent attempts at making eye-catching thumbnails. I was even told my thumbnails were disrespectful to my subscribers.
This is just pure idiocy. I'm going to point this out to you. And this is going to sting for some folks, especially the people who love to cry about clickbait this and misleading that and stupid thumbnail. Here's the truth, folks. You're hypocrites. You are. You got to take a long, hard look in the mirror. You're a hypocrite. You know why I know you're a hypocrite? Because you clicked on each and every one of those videos, each and every one of those clickbait thumbnails. You clicked on it and you jumped in the comment section to cry about clickbait. Now, the funny thing here is that 9 times out of 10, if you'd have listened to the video or actually watched and consumed the content that came after the quote unquote clickbait, you would probably look back and say, man, if you're going to call that clickbait, it's at least good clickbait. It's a sensational title that got me in to watch a video about something interesting that had a clear perspective on it, as opposed to certain other Irish YouTubers who have clickbait that leads to content that means jack crap because it's literally, a title or a thumbnail about massive earthquakes causing serious injury and damage to people in a small Alabama town. And then you find out from the video that it's literally somebody tripped over a crack in the sidewalk and skinned their knee. But it's so hypocritical because clearly you show why the algorithm requires that, because the algorithm is not some magical thing. It's not that YouTube goes in and says, okay, make clickbait titles get promoted more. Clickbait works because you click on it. And you're a hypocrite when you do click on it and then complain about it because it clearly works. You are feeding the algorithm that makes clickbait work. So don't cry about it. And here's the thing, we're all trapped in that because as long as the majority of YouTube behaves that way and produces that, it is literally the only way to get your content seen. So you should be happy when a content creator makes a very good piece of video or stream or whatever for you to watch, but makes some kind of eye-catching title so that you don't miss it. Don't sit there and call it clickbait. Just be glad that they're good enough at triggering that algorithm to get you the kind of content you can actually enjoy instead of you only getting garbage every time you click on a thumbnail.
And I would like to say, I am so deeply sorry that the free videos I spend over 40 hours of work creating are causing anyone emotional distress simply because I'm tired of having a stagnant channel. I tried it with boring thumbnails for 2 years and it didn't work. If you think I'm disrespecting you because I want my videos to compete with literally millions of other videos, I'd like to offer these possible solutions. First, you could just block this channel, or you could reach out to every person on YouTube and persuade them to change their viewing habits. Or,
can you shut the fuck up?
Yeah. See, the thing is, I agree. I hate the thumbnail game. My crazy thumbnails are meant to satirize the stupidity of it all. I would love to not even have my image on these thumbnails, just the topic title. I tried that at first. Didn't work. So complaints about thumbnails for free videos on the internet, listen, we're all adults here. My analytics make that clear. You're not new to YouTube. You know how the internet works. If you're mad about it, go yell at Mr. Beast. Just please stop complaining about things that are beyond the control of content creators. I assure you, we don't like it either. I recently uploaded a video reviewing a great game. In the comments, somebody said, 6 minutes and I still have no idea what this game is about. Somebody responded to them with 8 minutes. I used to feel responsible for feedback like that. I used to feel that I needed to do better, that their criticisms represented a failure on my part. But here's the thing. Part of my professional work off YouTube involves public speaking. And I've been doing that for over 10 years. In my professional work, I'm rated as one of the highest in my field. And as a teenager, I took acting classes for 6 years, plus the 45 years I've been running games. So I feel like my communication skills aren't all that terrible. And here's the real big kicker. Literally within the first 60 seconds of that fucking video, I stated this is a 5e version of D20 Modern. I don't know how much more clear I needed to be.
Yeah, I've seen that video, and this is clearly just what I was talking about a second ago. This is not a person who actually had anything to do with paying attention to the video. They just jumped in so that they could have, jump in and say and yell and scream. They maybe clicked through a couple of frames and stuff. They don't like the fact that there's an intro and some prefacing that goes on in the video. And half the time, I think these people don't even know what they want, because that video was pretty straight and to the point. It was about Everyday Heroes, which is a pretty solid game. I guess it's one of those situations where people just don't, they're so lazy that they don't even want to take a deeper look. It's like, what D20 Modern? What the hell's D20 Modern? That doesn't mean anything to me. Google it. You need to have at least some working knowledge of the hobby you're going to be in before you start bitching that somebody didn't give you enough hand holding.
Do you know what 5e is? Do you know what D20 Modern is? Great. Now you know what the game is. What I've realized through my 2 years here on YouTube is this channel isn't going to appeal to stupid people. If someone has trouble making it through the day without licking the inside of an active light socket, this channel isn't going to appeal to them. So I've stopped trying. There are plenty of other channels that already cater to the lowest common denominator. Here's a hot take every dungeon tuber knows but may not be willing to say out loud. The number of subscribers on a dungeon tuber's channel isn't a measure of the quality of their advice. In fact, the fastest growing channels aren't usually gaining the most thoughtful or experienced gamers. They're feeding the noobs and chasing the low-hanging fruit. I doubt many of those viewers will still be playing in a few years. Depth rarely goes viral. And ageism, promoted by WotC, is off the charts, creating a huge barrier between the old and young gamers. Furthermore, if the audience for a dungeon tuber is there for the latest Reddit trend or outrage of the week, they're not really in it for the game. And neither is that dungeon tuber. Oh,
that's a great place to pause it. Yeah, there's a lot there. I wouldn't call it ageism because it's not about age. It's about it's more about a generational philosophy. There are plenty of older people who are, say, trapped in the wokeism, and don't even take it to the wokeism. I know it's an outgrowth of the social woke behavior, but the slice of life barista orc Starbucks in medieval Europe fantasy world version game of D&D. There's plenty of older people who play that. There's plenty of older people who like that. There's plenty of older people who are involved in that. Likewise, there are plenty of young people, in particular young men, coming up in OSR style gaming that want things that are grittier, that want things that are more brutal, that want older style gaming. And it's not necessarily an age thing. It's like I said, it's more of a generational gap. But, WotC definitely promotes a hard split between the older style of play and the newer style of play. I mean, they're selling the newer style of play. And there's an absolute truth to the whole depth doesn't go viral. And that's because viral expansion is about knee-jerk reactions. And you look at any, you look at a Jenny D. Jenny D's videos have their legs because she's a semi-cute girl who puts her boobs on her thumbnail. And that's not even me hating on generic Jenny here, but I call her generic Jenny for a reason. The only real advice that she gives is extraordinarily generic. It's just the manner in which she presents it. She is there to catch the drive-through new player base and people who want to see her dress up as an elf or whatever. And same thing with your Bob World Builder type videos. And then you look at it, I refer again back to Professor DM. You go to Dungeon Craft and he's shown the analytics on it. If he does an outrage video or a WotC screwed this up video, or even something that's just really a basic video, a basic D&D video, he gets his tens of thousands of views. However, when he does some kind of classic gaming review, or he does ultimate dungeon terrain, or what I've learned from X number of years of DMing and having a long-term group and that sort of thing, those videos, instead of getting tens of thousands of views, get thousands of views. And that's just the truth of the matter. People want right now, easy, sensational, exciting right off the bat, and then I'm distracted and go into the next thing. So let's see what old Bubbleface has to say.
Oh, it sounds like Aten is just bitter. Well, frankly, I am annoyed that we live in a world that is getting stupider by the day, but my observations come from the fact that several channels I deem to be of the highest quality aren't dominating the subcounts and views, while someone reading Reddit posts is killing it. Good for them. I wish everyone all of the success, and my criticism isn't even about them. It just shows the vast majority of people aren't here for quality gaming information. Despite increased visibility, TTRPGs are not now, nor have they ever truly been popular. While TTRPGs have gained more attention in recent years, especially through platforms like Critical Role and shows like Stranger Things, they remain a niche hobby. I have a lot of data to back this up. The core community consists of dedicated enthusiasts, and the broader appeal is limited. The perception of TTRPGs as mainstream is often fueled by transient interest rather than sustained engagement. I despise Reddit. The younger generations of gamers who unfairly label older gamers as racist and sexist are the very same demographic that spends time on Reddit, a platform with rampant bigotry, sexism, and racism. I deleted my little used account there after discovering just how bad it is. So please, if you post on Reddit, spare me the fake indignations and performative internet activism. A Reddit thread isn't the revelation some might think. For all of the toxicity WotC has injected into our hobby, Reddit is just as bad, if not worse.
Reddit is definitely worse. Because that's what Reddit is. Reddit is a machine that manufactures outrage. It promotes outrage. And the entire way Reddit is set up is designed to take a small scratch and turn it into a festering wound. It's just by the nature of the way the platform is set up with the upvoting and downvoting and with the incredibly anonymous nature of the internet, Reddit rewards, unless you're in actually not even there, like even in like car repair threads, you will have let's just say, changing what is the best ignition system to use on an 85 Ford. And in that Reddit thread, unless you have an active moderator stopping it, you'll have some guy who's like, the best way to fix that Ford's ignition system is to throw that truck off a cliff and get a Chevy. And that will get upvoted to the point where it's plastered in front of everybody. And that has nothing to do with the best ignition system for a Ford. And that's in an advice or a mechanical advice thread with mainly older people. That, how do I change my spark plugs thread? To say nothing of something that is a social thing like a role-playing game. And this kind of goes back to the generational thing. You have a generation raised on the internet and raised on outrage and raised on clickbait. And the guy who says the outrageous funny thing gets his stuff upvoted, which leads to the guy behind him trying to say something more quote unquote funny and considerably more outrageous to get his upvote. Meanwhile, the meaningful and thoughtful things are buried, especially because they're, the snarky comment is two sentences. It gets upvoted 10,000 times. The thoughtful comment is 2 paragraphs. Nobody bothers to read it. And he actually has more people there's more people getting upvotes on the guy who says TLDR, this guy's a FUD, this guy's whatever, this guy's an asshole. That actually gets more upvotes than the other thing. So yeah, Reddit's an absolute cesspool. And going back to what he said a minute ago, honestly, if your channel is just you reading Reddit stuff, that is an automatic, instant, I'm not subbing, go away, get the hell out of my face, situation for me. I have no interest in you, quote unquote, roll post doing that stuff. And there you go. Like I'm gonna name this channel by name. Otherwise, I wouldn't. But Crit Crab. All Crit Crab is a guy with a cartoon crab reading Reddit posts and pausing it to make some comments on it, like he knows something. He's basically just putting all of his Reddit posts on YouTube instead of putting them on Reddit. 408,000 subscribers with 280 videos. For reading what's probably somebody else's made-up drama. Because I'm going to tell you right now, 99% of the RPG horror stories I read on Reddit, you look at them and, it's like, hey, things that didn't happen for 10,000, Alex. Oh, that's right. The thing that happened was you manufactured this post to get this outrage so you could possibly have a viral Reddit post to jumpstart your ability to do whatever kind of social activism you want to use the game for. But absolutely right. Reddit's a cesspool.
But at least WotC does it for financial reasons. Reddit does it because that's where ignorance flourishes. That's where people who have no idea how to play D&D are happy to tell other people how to play D&D. In a recent video, I had a disclaimer. If you think something is incorrect, please fact check yourself before calling me out in the comments. I said that because almost every time somebody says I'm wrong about something, I go fact check myself. And what I discover is in almost every case is that they are mistaken. So now they've just wasted my time. If I'm ever going to be objectively incorrect about anything in a video, it will be a mispronunciation. That happens sometimes. Or it may be related to numbers. I may have said page 93 when I meant 39. I have mild dyscalculia, so I stumble around numbers. It's annoying. But TTRPGs actually help me since they require constant math. But outside of numbers and mispronunciations, an error is highly unlikely. Okay, how are we doing so far?
I will say this real quick, and this just everybody take this down. Write this down as a note. If just like the personal insult ad hominem attack thing, if the only thing you can come up with to try and refute a point that somebody makes is to say, oh, that wasn't the first edition DMG, that was actually the first edition player's handbook that was in. Or, he said page 93, it's really page 39. Guess we can really try. If that's the only thing you can come up with, once again, you need to go back and examine why you're arguing in the first place, because apparently you can't come up with anything other than he misquoted a page number, or, he said Menzo Baranzan instead of some other drow city when he made a comment, and by context, everybody knows what he was saying is correct. That's just you having no point and just wanting to argue for the sake of argument. I mean, by all means, make sure you continue to leave those comments in the comment section. It is still engagement. But otherwise, just know that you're an insufferable jackass. And if you don't want to be an insufferable jackass, Before you post a reply like that, think to yourself, do I really have anything to say against this man's point? Or can all I do is gotcha moment him because he didn't dot an I or cross a T?
I figured it's time for a check-in because things are about to get worse. I've created this video to help promote my commentary channel, which is where this type of content really belongs. I was going to address racism and sexism allegations as well as Gary Gygax in this video, but it doubled the length, at least. So I'm planning on a full journalism piece regarding those discussions. I've been working on that for over a year, not to promote a personal opinion, just to review all of the evidence from all sides. Right now, I have a video on that channel addressing racial inequality in media bias known as missing white girl syndrome. That video has already received a ton of downvotes because people with their political opinions shoved too far up their asses hate hearing facts that challenge them to show compassion for others.
It's a good video. You should go watch it. I'll link it above.
Subscribe there for more content that will piss you off. But a reminder, that channel like this one does not promote political tribalism. I promote kindness and critical thinking. One of the biggest lies you'll hear about this hobby is there's no wrong way to play so long as y'all having fun. That's false. That's dead wrong. There are plenty of wrong ways to play. Just ask Reddit.
Just ask Reddit. I'm going to take this on its face value right after I get done being offended about the accent. I don't like this because it's both right and wrong. It is correct to say there's no wrong to play as long as everybody's having fun. There is no wrong way for you to conduct your table if that is what is enjoyable and fun for the people at your table. And when we say there's no wrong way to play as long as you're having fun, what it means is if I go in and change a rule, or I say that there's no class involved here because it's, you can't be paladins because there's no paladins in my world or whatever the case may be. When we do something like that, none of that is wrong if it services the game and makes people have a better time. What happens, though, is people take this to an extreme to mean that no matter what you do in any way, it's not wrong. If you've changed it to make it objectively less fun or objectively less enjoyable, you're doing it wrong. Whether that's doing it rules as written or not, it's playing wrong if what you're doing is not servicing the table. It's also playing wrong if we are talking about a specific type of play and a specific way to run the game. So, for instance, you are playing it wrong if you say, I am playing classic rules as written Dungeons and Dragons, but you have a bunch of house rules, because you're not. You are in the sense that rule 0 is a rule as written, but that's one of those situations where what you're doing is you're arguing semantics and you're saying, well, because I may take an extremely literal definition of this, that makes this fit. No, there are situations where there is a wrong way to play. Also, there is a wrong way to play in the broader context of when we're doing these commentary videos and we're talking to the hobby as a whole, we're talking to the game as a whole. Like if I say, no, treating a fireball as having an 80-foot radius is wrong, that is wrong. The spell has a 30-foot radius. You are wrong. You can be like, oh, well, I house rule it that way all the time. What your house rule is does not change what is wrong in the broader context. It is incorrect that is the way the spell was designed.
Those horror stories exist for a reason. And guess what? A lot of those people causing the problems, they're having fun. It's everyone else that's not. By the way, the whole idea there's no wrong way to play, that began with my generation of gamers because we had to interpret the rules ourselves with little outside help, resulting in often vastly different styles of gameplay. But that concept has been taken advantage of in recent years. The truth is, there are countless wrong ways to play. You just need to figure out what's right or wrong for your table. Not every table needs to or should be playing the same way, but every table needs to know what it won't tolerate. Because remember, birds of a feather flock together. So if you're playing with a group of jerks, there's a strong possibility you're a jerk. And that brings us to table manners. Table manners matter. Empathy isn't a weakness. It's the strongest magic in the game. You can't tease someone for their RP voices and then wonder why nobody role plays at your table. If your edgy character is a license to be toxic, you're not role playing, you're just a jerk. If your fun comes at the expense of someone else, it's not a play style, it's a problem. D&D is...
Hey, remember guys, rule -1, the only rule that supersedes rule 0, don't be a dick.
Isn't therapy. Your DM isn't your therapist unless you are in fact seeing a licensed therapist who is using D&D specifically for the purposes of therapy, but that would be rare. And though it isn't therapy, it can be therapeutic. At best, RPG safety tools improve communication between participants to improve enjoyment of the game. At worst, they inadvertently provide cover for toxic people to cause harm to others. It is weird that some people don't understand that. If you disagree with my statement, it's not because I'm wrong, it's because you've yet to fully understand human behavior. And arguing with me about RPG safety tools is nearly as futile as trying to argue with me about TTRPGs in general. The goth subculture has a long history with the BDSM kink subculture. I'm not interested in being lectured about bondage and discipline, dominance and submission, sadism and masochism protocols and tabletop role-playing games. In fact, I think that some people often forget what BDSM stands for. I found those who think they can lecture me about it are precisely the type of people who RPG safety tools were created to protect others from. If you haven't already watched my safety tools video from 2 years ago, I believe it's the best on YouTube.
It's a really good one. I honestly, I think my videos are better. But no, it's definitely among the best and is one of the most level-headed takes. And honestly, I don't think that the way he presents it comes across the same, but I do get the idea that he has a very similar stance on what safety tools are and the way they are and the way they should be utilized as I do. And you'll notice that everything he talks about misuse of safety tools comes from the same thing that I say is the problem with them. It's the fact of the direction in which they flow. It's the disruption of power, and it's the ability to actively interfere. The problem, then this is the biggest problem with safety tools, even if you take the transfer of power from game master to player out of it. There is no problem that a safety tool can solve that a safety tool can actually solve. Okay? If you really need to use, when a player uses a safety tool the way they're presented these days, it means one of two things. Either A, the player using the safety tool needs to be removed from your game because they're either A, at the wrong table, they're in the wrong group, they're not a good fit, or B, they have serious problems that they need to address, or C, they're actively disruptive and they're bad players, or B, it means that that player needs to get the hell off of that table in the first place because the people who are there are no good. If you're throwing the X card because if your game master starts going into a detailed graphic rape scene, you shouldn't be throwing an X card. You should be throwing a, hey man, what the hell are you talking about? I don't think, I'm out of here. We're not doing this. The fact that you decided this is what you needed to do, no warning, out in the blue, right in the middle of this game with a group of, with this fun elf game on Saturday night, tells me that you don't get that -1 rule of don't be a dick. You knew that wasn't a good thing. And don't sit there and play the victim talking about, oh, you're artistic, it's all about breaking taboos. Don't be so sensitive. No, you were a dick, and X card isn't going to fix you being a dick.
I hope you'll watch it after this. I stand by everything I said in that video. If a game table truly requires X card interventions to remain enjoyable, you don't need safety tools. You need a new group.
I've got to, I guess maybe I need to let him finish the segment before I go in and add my 2 cents because, well, there you go. I mean, I just said, I'm pretty sure that he and I kind of agree, but come from different angles on it and use some different terminology. And then he just turned around and repeats one of the things I just said.
Also, before anyone jumps to conclusions about what I'm saying, that video literally shows you my RPG safety tools document from the 90s, which I created at least 5 years before anything like that was ever officially published and introduced into the hobby.
I want to point something out here. Notice this. He's using the term safety tools, which is going to be a trigger word for a lot of people. And unfortunately, I think he kind of needs to not use safety tools when he talks about this kind of thing. There's a reason for that. And that is because the term safety tools has developed its own meaning. And once that meaning has taken hold, trying to go back and say, well, this is really the same thing as the original concept doesn't really work anymore, because that word has changed its meaning over time. Kind of like, in colonial America saying, or no, it wouldn't be colonial America, but, some time ago saying, hey, give me a fag would have been, give me a cigarette. And even in certain parts of England, it still is kind of that way. That term has taken on a different meaning now. And if you continue to use it for a cigarette, you're really just kind of being a dick. That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, but look at all the stuff. If you're kind of glancing at some of these pages that he flips through, everything in here is a DM telling the players, a DM setting expectations for the players on how they behave. All of this flows from the GM and his position of authority in the game to the players. It is all centralized. None of this is player coming back towards game master. It's permissive, where the DM says, this is how we handle these things. And that is the key reason why safety tools, as it is meant today and as it is presented today, why they are bad.
I moved that video to my commentary channel because of the drama and personal trauma it was causing here. After that commentary channel reaches enough subscribers, I'm planning on a follow-up to highlight some of the most concerning responses my safety tools video received. Many of those taking issue with my video thought they were trying to prove me wrong, but all they were doing was bolstering my arguments and proving themselves to be toxic. Some greasy nerd trying to lecture me about BDSM from his mom's basement while telling me I'm a mono gamer because I'm not trying to practice unlicensed mental health therapies on my gaming group is exactly the type of person you should never game with.
No kidding. Let's just go ahead and put this out here, guys. We've got enough problems with all these people running around with self-diagnosed mental illnesses and self-diagnosed disabilities. We sure as hell don't need self-treatment in games.
I'll make a free PDF of my 90s safety tools document available when I do that follow-up video. There's a link to my commentary channel in this video's description. Playing, or at least trying, other TTRPGs will usually make you better at your favorite one. Every system teaches you something: pacing, tone, stakes, narrative structure, while improving your skills and expanding your imagination. If you're unwilling to even try another game, you're not really a gamer. You're a consumer loyal to a brand. Being a gamer means exploring games, not just repeating the same one out of habit. If you've only ever played one game and refused to try others, you're not a gamer. You're a fanboy simp. Don't simp for anyone, especially not D&D. There's a difference between loving a game and refusing to grow past it. And I'm sorry to say this, but neither WotC nor D&D deserve our continued brand loyalty. We can't remain in toxic relationships simply because it feels familiar or because we've already invested so much into it. That's called the lost cause fallacy.
Correction. It is not the lost cause fallacy. The lost cause is a rewriting of post-Civil War history in the United States that presents the South as a fallen noble entity detached from the slavery issue. What he means is the sunk cost fallacy, which is an economic principle where you continue to do something. We've all heard a version of it. Well, man, I've already got $10,000 in that. What's another $5,000? I got to get my money back out of it. We got to get my money back out of it. Man, I got to keep, fix that truck and get it back on the road, son. We got to get our money back out of it. We got too much money in it. That's the sunk cost fallacy. We've sunk so much into this, we have to finish it. Instead of saying, we've sunk so much money into this, it is obviously not going to work. It's time to cut bait and go on.
Armor class doesn't mean you're not getting hit. Hit points don't mean you're a meat tank. They're abstractions. AC is how hard you are to hurt, not how hard you are to hit. Hit points aren't just flesh and blood. It's stamina, skill, morale, grit, divine favor, luck, plot armor, all of that and more. Thinking hit points equals meat and AC equals armor is how you end up arguing over realism in a game with owlbears and wizards. All those giving game master advice, including myself, aren't telling you how to run games. We're telling you how we run games. If you want to be good at this, you'll need to find something none of us can give you, your own voice and style. All GM advice is autobiographical. Learn what is useful to you, but don't live in someone else's games.
That is absolutely 100,000% true. One thing that we have to remember when we talk about these things ourselves is that when we give advice, what you should be doing is looking at it and saying, how does this work well for us? How does this work well for my table? And is it close? Not is it perfect? And it's not, oh, I went and tried exactly what you said and it didn't work, so it's bad. No, I mean, did you analyze it? Did you think of how it interacts with your game and your players? And did you make modifications to try and make it work? That's what you should be doing anytime you hear any of these Game Master advice videos, any kind of clips or snippets or supplements. You look at them and you say, how does this fit in? I think 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons was the best Dungeons & Dragons, and I've said it before, largely because of how modular it is. And the key to having a really good 3.5 game is knowing what supplements, rules, and adjustments to add and which ones not to add, which ones to take out, and what variants to use. That is the same way we should treat all Game Master advice and all supplements. What pieces do we need to take and add? Going back to his prior point, that's also what we need to do with different games. Maybe Call of Cthulhu is not your deal. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's too much of a narrative game. Maybe it doesn't scratch your itch. But you know what? That luck mechanic is fantastic, and lifting it to put in any game is not a bad idea. Maybe hit location, rolling a D6 for hit location is a big deal for you. But you don't like Cyberpunk. That doesn't mean it's not there. And that's part of why at least exploring, if not playing other games, is a big part of being an actual gamer or really a hobbyist.
Another big lie that gets repeated a lot is they say that game masters aren't storytellers. That's only half true. To be any good at all behind the GM screen requires skills that aren't in the rules. Knowing all the rules is not nearly as important as having good storytelling skills. Being a GM without knowing what it takes to tell a good story is like being a chef with no taste buds. I have a full video on this topic. Creating and playing in your own homebrew world is infinitely better than playing in a published one. Not much more needs to be said about that. Create your own world. Start doing it now. If you truly love this hobby, you'll be glad you did. Well, if you haven't already been pissed off, this might do it for you. Theory crafting character builds isn't role-playing. It's just another form of rules lawyering. Dungeon tubers who spend time covering theory crafting are noobs crapping on the hobby and their viewers by promoting a practice that leads to burnout in the hobby. If you're playing a game with no chance of failure, are you really even playing a game? If you want to enjoy theory crafting, that's fine. Just leave the gaming table and go play a video game.
You see, I disagree with this. This goes back to knowing your table both ways, player and GM, and understanding that we all have different ways that we enjoy the game. And it took me a minute to get to this myself because, being a 3.5 guy, I run into a lot of builds, a lot of people who do, and I understand the hate for anytime you start talking about a character build, you've jumped the shark, you've lost the thread. I get it because we're not here trying to make some kind of, that's not what we're here for. We're all trying to play this collective, collaborative game. But there are some people that their enjoyment that they get is through mastery of the system. And playing the game is merely a way for them to test their mastery of the system. I recently lost a player in my 3.5 group pretty much for exactly this reason. I gave them a Kobayashi Maru type scenario. And for those who don't know, that's from Star Trek. It's an unwinnable situation. It is a no-win scenario. After that situation, he was so fed up and so pissed. Like that one session, he's been playing with me for years. That one thing, he's gone. Why? because the way he enjoys playing the game is putting together a character and then testing that character, testing that build against the game itself. He does the other things that, the role playing, the interacting with the story, the interacting with the narrative and the other players and the things that happen in the world. He does all the other good gaming stuff that everybody else enjoys. But that's all just to service his end of testing his character against the system. And by giving him a no-win scenario, I robbed him of the ability to test that character knowledge, which means I took away his fun. Now, I think he was a little overreacting. Hey, sometimes a session has things in it that you don't like that doesn't suit your play style, and you have to deal with that, just like the rogue had to deal with the fact that we had 3 or 4 combat-heavy sessions in a row, and he basically didn't get to do anything for a couple of sessions. He had very little to do. He dealt with it. He moved on. He's having a great time. But the fact of the matter remains that he looked at it, he's like, oh, you will put in situations where no matter how good I am, I can't win. So that takes away my ability to test my mastery of the system. Therefore, this is not the table for me. So it's just another style of play. But it is something that needs to be recognized. And he is correct. You basically come into it's basically battling spreadsheets at that point.
If your fun depends on exploiting mechanics instead of engaging in the world, you're not playing a character, you're playing the system. If your character only works by following an exact feat order and multi-class recipe, you're not creating a hero, you're drafting a frickin' spreadsheet. These are role-playing games, not spreadsheeting homework assignments.
Well, there we go. Once again, probably should have let him finish, but I still disagree. And he's not wrong. I think his characterization of it is wrong. It's just another scenario where those people, they are playing against the system, and that is a totally different play style than what 99% of us do. And if they can adapt and give just enough to everybody else, they're not bad players to have with you. It's fine, because the stuff they do is 99% out of session and away from everybody else. However, when that's all they do and they don't add anything else and they're constantly trying to manipulate the system, that does become a problem, and they probably need to find another table that is focused on that.
Rules lawyering doesn't always sound like, well, actually, sometimes it sounds like 14 hours of YouTube and Reddit build guides. There's nothing wrong with optimizing, but if you think theory crafting is peak D&D, you should find a different activity better suited to your interests. May I suggest recreational accounting? For clarity, I don't hate optimization. My players optimize. I only hate it when it attempts to replace imagination. Here's an analogy I think really captures this theory crafting phenomenon. I was a semi-professional musician in the 90s, educated in music theory and composition. Musicians generally hear music differently than most people. We tend to notice chord progressions, key changes, melodies, harmonies, timing. Personally, I can't stand anything that's just monotone, repetitive 4/4 kick drum and bass line. But some people absolutely love that, and that's totally okay. On the flip side, there are some people who love jazz with wild tempo changes and complex harmonies, and they look at me like I'm some uncultured simpleton. And you know what? They're right too, because different people like different things.
Different people like different things.
Failure to accept that will only make your life harder. Failure to accept differences in others only makes you susceptible to manipulation and fear-mongering. To me, theory crafting ultra-optimized characters is the tabletop equivalent of that repetitive 4/4 drum beat. But for some players, that's what makes the game feel good. While I will not allow exploit builds at my table, what you do on your table, no concern to me.
Yeah, and some people that exploit build, that super hyper-optimized build, is them crafting a jazz tune, and they're not interested. They're sitting down in a jazz ensemble. They're not interested in reworking canon and D into another pop tune.
Anyone who tries to argue with you about your own choices and preferences, who tells you you're wrong for liking what you like, is just insecure about themselves. And that doesn't end with gaming. It applies to every fiber of who you are. Never give in to hate. I am unapologetically intolerant of intolerance. These have all been some strong opinions I hold about the hobby I love and life in general. You don't have to agree with me. Just please think for yourself. That's what separates you from everyone else. This hobby is big enough for all of us, so long as we show empathy and compassion. And for those who don't, for the bullies, the narcissists, the joy killers, young and old, the drama farmers, I'm happy to keep the gate locked. As always, I'm your host and friend, Aten. Thanks for watching.
Okay, guys, that's the end of that one. I'm just going to say right now that it is always fun to watch his videos. I think he has a lot of insight there. And it's really important because you'll notice that I've got a lot of disagreements with him. I got a lot of agreements too. And that's the way we should be approaching all of this stuff. The issue is that everything has become extremes. Everything has become my camp versus your camp. It's battle lines drawn, and we've almost forgotten why we're fighting at this point. We just know we need to fight the other side. Maybe you shouldn't approach every single argument that way. But anyway, this video is getting close to an hour long, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it on up here. And you guys throw what you're thinking down in the comment section there. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to see some discussion here. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm also going to be, I'm going to be linking all that and stuff down in the description as well. And hell, I'm not hosting a podcast. Hadn't ever been high on my list of things to do, but who knows? Maybe if I can get in touch with old Aten, maybe we could throw something together, maybe do a monthly stream, whatnot. Let me know what you think about that down in the comment section below. See you guys next time.